This is every pro wrestling company explained, starting with the place where it all began for most fans, the WWE, aka World Wrestling Entertainment. It's the company that turned wrestling into a global phenomenon, selling out stadiums worldwide and making superstars like The Rock, Hulk Hogan, Steve Austin, and John Cena into household names. The presentation is unmistakable with massive production budgets, storylines that could rival soap operas, celebrity crossovers, and iconic stadium shows that feel like rock concerts. Founded back in 1953 as Capital Wrestling Corporation, this company evolved through the decades into WWF and eventually WWE. During the late 90s and early 2000s, WWE was at its hottest with the Attitude Era and the Ruthless Aggression Era, giving us stars like Cena, Batista, Lesnar, Kane, and The Undertaker, who gave us edgy entertainment, but later the company shifted towards a more family-friendly product. For decades, WWE was run by the McMahon family, but as of 2025, it's controlled by TKO, and the product has been lacking ever since they took over. Even then, they're still the dominant force in wrestling, with weekly television reaching millions, premium live events drawing massive crowds, and a video library that spans generations. WWE hosts annual shows like WrestleMania, SummerSlam, Survivor Series, and the Royal Rumble that feel like global events, and even today when people think of pro wrestling, they think of WWE. But WWE's dominance faced its first real challenge in decades when All Elite Wrestling burst onto the scene in 2019. Founded by billionaire Tony Khan alongside wrestlers like Cody Rhodes and the Young Bucks, AEW did something many thought impossible. They became a legit national alternative to WWE's monopoly. Backed by serious money and a vision to give fans something different, AEW quickly secured major TV deals and started filling arenas. What makes AEW special is how they offer a blend of different styles. You'll see indie darlings like Ospreay having spot-heavy classics one minute, then established stars like Omega and Moxley delivering a hardcore brawl the next. It's wrestling for wrestling fans, but presented on a major league scale. AEW's major shows include All In, Wrestle Dream, Double or Nothing, and All Out, with other shows like Full Gear, Revolution, and Forbidden Door keeping things interesting throughout the year. AEW was at its peak in 2021 with names like CM Punk, Bryan Danielson, Kenny Omega, Adam Cole, Christian Cage, and Jon Moxley as regular performers, but ever since Punk's departure, the product has been a mixed bag with some memorable shows and some forgettable duds. The biggest issue most fans point out when it comes to AEW is that the company feels like it lacks structure, and Tony Khan lacks the backbone to run things like a boss. Khan has been constantly criticized for giving away booking power to names like The Elite, Chris Jericho, and Adam Copeland, while letting go of names like Cody Rhodes and CM Punk. But even then, as of 2025, AEW remains stable with pay-per-views like Full Gear, consistent television, and a roster that keeps growing. However, while WWE dominates America and AEW provides the alternative, across the Pacific Ocean sits the company that defined what professional wrestling could be as pure sport. Founded in 1972 by the legendary Antonio Inoki, New Japan Pro Wrestling became Japan's premier wrestling company and introduced the world to strong style. This is where wrestling feels less like entertainment and more like combat. NJPW built its reputation on match quality that consistently delivers five-star classics and tournament culture that treats wins and losses like they actually matter. The G1 Climax Tournament has become wrestling's most prestigious annual event, and their ranking system gives everything a sense of legitimacy. Their biggest show of the year is called Wrestle Kingdom, and it's held every January at the Tokyo Dome. Stars like Nakamura, Okada, and Styles, who succeed in New Japan, often become global sensations. The company's hottest period came during a decade earlier, with names like Tanahashi, Nakamura, Okada, Omega, AJ Styles, Devitt, and other stars on the roster, with New Japan's content reaching a wider audience thanks to the introduction of the Bullet Club. In 2025, NJPW continues drawing passionate crowds in Japan, but the product simply doesn't hit the same like it used to back in 2015. But moving on from the land of rising sun, let's rewind and talk about a company that changed wrestling forever, even though it doesn't exist anymore. ECW started as a small, independent promotion in the 1990s, operating out of bingo halls and basement clubs in Philadelphia. But what they lacked in budget, they made up for in attitude. ECW became the cult favorite that dared to be different, showcasing hardcore violence, edgy storylines, and giving a platform to wrestlers like Sabu, Tommy Dreamer, Sandman, and other extreme legends the big companies wouldn't touch. They shifted mainstream wrestling toward more adult-oriented content and proved there was an audience hungry for something raw and unfiltered. In fact, if it wasn't for ECW's success, WWE might have never dared to usher in the edginess of the Attitude Era that saved the company. The original version of ECW folded in 2001 due to financial problems, and WWE eventually bought the assets. They briefly revived the ECW brand between 2006 and 2010, but it was never quite the same. As of 2025, ECW exists only in spirit and WWE's archive footage. But speaking of ECW's spirit, Game Changer Wrestling picked up the torch and ran with it. Starting as Jersey Championship Wrestling before rebranding to GCW, this promotion rose through the 2010s to become one of America's most important independent companies. GCW doesn't play by anyone's rules. Their shows are wild, unpredictable experiences that mix ultra-violent death matches with high-level indie wrestling, comedy segments, and everything in between. It's wrestling without boundaries, and their matches go viral on social media. GCW bridged the underground deathmatch culture with mainstream indie credibility, and they've become central to the alternative wrestling scene. Names like Matt Cardona, Nick Gage, Joey Janela, Shotzi, and even Jon Moxley have made appearances in GCW, and the promotion remains a solid proving ground for anyone willing to step into that territory. Annual GCW shows include Backyard Wrestling, Bloodsport, Joey Janela's Spring Break, and the Tournament of Survival. While GCW represents the underground, let's talk about a promotion that's spent over 2 decades trying to compete with the WWE. Launched in 2002 as Total Nonstop Action Wrestling, TNA has had more ups and downs than a roller coaster. TNA gave a national television platform to incredible talent who became stars. AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, Christopher Daniels, and countless others honed their craft in the six-sided ring before moving to bigger stages. TNA started with a pay-per-view format but later followed the traditional American wrestling format with weekly episodic television, mixing homegrown talent like Styles, Joe, Motor City Machine Guns, Jay Lethal, and Abyss, with established veterans like Sting, Kurt Angle, Kevin Nash, Booker T, and creating some genuinely memorable moments. The company has survived bankruptcy scares, ownership changes, and constant competition from bigger promotions. Their hottest period was during the mid to late 2000s when the roster was stacked with incredible performers, and TNA felt like a legit alternative to the watered-down PG product WWE was putting on during that time. However, after Hogan's arrival and eventual departure, the company quickly went downhill and still hasn't been able to reach the peak popularity of TNA during the late 2000s. Around 2016, TNA experienced another revival with the Broken Hardys saga, and the momentum was enough to keep them afloat for years. In the following years, names like Nick Nemeth, Jordynne Grace, Mustafa Ali, and other wrestlers would show up in TNA, and the company also collaborated with AEW and WWE. As of 2025, TNA is still operating with live events, pay-per-views like Slammiversary, Bound for Glory, and has an active presence, but it's safe to say they won't be challenging WWE or AEW directly in the near future. Switching gears from the American wrestling scene, let's talk about a promotion in Japan that deserves equal recognition for what they've accomplished in women's wrestling. Founded in 2010, Stardom became the premier Joshi promotion, showcasing women's wrestling at an elite level. The style includes lightning-fast action, incredibly stiff strikes, and an athletic presentation that treats the matches as serious competition. Stardom operates on a faction-based system where stables battle for supremacy, creating long-term storylines that pay off in their tournament structure. Their major events include the 5-Star Grand Prix and the Cinderella Tournament that have been instrumental in the global rise of women's wrestling, producing stars like Kairi Sane, Io Shirai, Toni Storm, and many others who've gone on to succeed worldwide. After acquisition moves that brought them closer to New Japan Pro Wrestling in 2024, Stardom has only grown stronger and still continues to produce the next generation of Japanese female wrestlers. Before we move on to the next major wrestling company, let's rapid fire through some honorable mentions that deserve recognition. Major League Wrestling, founded in 2002 and revived in 2017. It positions itself as a hybrid wrestling promotion, mixing international styles with classic presentation. Progress Wrestling out of the UK launched in 2011 and became crucial to the British wrestling scene. The company had a punk rock vibe, and their biggest show came at Chapter 76 in 2018, when Walter defeated Tyler Bate at the Wembley Stadium. Progress gave us names like Pete Dunne, Tyler Bate, and Trent Seven, But the promotion never recovered from the damage after most of their top stars left for NXT UK. Combat Zone Wrestling, founded in 1999, pioneered American ultraviolence with their Tournament of Death series and remains the go-to brand for hardcore wrestling. Lucha Underground mixed lucha libre with cinematic storytelling in a way nobody had seen before. Their filmic presentation was genuinely unique and gave a bigger platform to names like Penta, Rey Fenix, Prince Puma, and many other luchadors to show their talents on a worldwide stage. Their last original run ended in 2018, and as of 2025, Lucha Underground isn't active as a regular promotion, though revival rumors pop up occasionally. This brings us to the company that started this whole conversation about competition, World Championship Wrestling. In the 1990s, WCW was the giant that nearly killed WWE. Backed by Ted Turner's money and cable television access, they launched Monday Nitro and started the Monday Night Wars that changed wrestling forever. The New World Order storyline captivated audiences, and for 83 consecutive weeks, WCW beat WWE in the ratings. Major WCW shows included Starrcade, Fall Brawl, Bash at the Beach, Halloween Havoc, and the company gave us stars like Sting, Goldberg, Booker T, and other names who would go on to become legends. They had the stars, the production budget, and the momentum. But creative missteps, backstage politics, and financial mismanagement eventually caught up with them. By 2001, WWE purchased WCW, and the company that once threatened to dominate wrestling vanished overnight. Today, WCW exists only in history and in WWE's video archive. But their legacy lives on in how they proved competition makes wrestling better and a cautionary tale about what happens when creative vision gets lost. While WCW lost the war, they did give us one of the most memorable gimmicks ever in the form of Crow Sting. And speaking of gimmicks, check out this video next about the most loved versus most hated wrestling gimmicks.